Hi, thanks for joining us for the Family Plot, Gardening in the Mid-South. I'm Chris Cooper. The grass is pretty much done growing for this year. We're going to show you how to prepare your lawnmower for storage. Also, this is a great time to test your soil. That's just ahead on the Family Plot, Gardening in the Mid-South.
Production funding for the Family Plot, Gardening in the Mid-South is provided by Goodwin's Landscape and Garden Center in Germantown since 1943 and continuing to offer its plants for successful gardening with 7 greenhouses and 3 acres of plants, plus comprehensive landscape services. International Paper Foundation, the WKNO Production Fund, the WKNO Endowment Fund, and by viewers like you. Thank you.
Welcome to the Family Plot. I'm Chris Cooper. Joining me today is Booker T. Leigh. Booker is an extension agent right here in Shelby County, and Mr. D will be joining us later. Hi, Booker. We're talking about lawnmowers. We're talking about putting them up in storage for the winter, which I can't wait for because I want to go dormant too.
I can't wait, Doc, to get mine put up for the winter month. Cause I hate to bring it back outside again, though. But then in the springtime, we don't store it right.
Right.
We got to again start it up. It won't make it. You just keep pulling and pulling and pulling. You wonder what's wrong. You didn't store it right.
Well, that happened to me.
Me too. Right now, I'm gonna start this one right now. Make sure it's ready to go.
All right.
And just put it up. There we go. Ready to go.
All right.
And a lot of times, Dr. Chris, a lot of times we don't clean our air filter on our mower. With like a filter on there, they get real clogged up sometimes.
Okay.
A lot of, especially cutting in the early spring, when you got that first cutting, it get real dirty. And you need to take this out of here.
That's dirty.
That's dirty. That's dirty. That's it. No, you can't dust it off and put it back in there. But I just go and try and give me a new one in there.
Okay.
That's what I'm gonna do right now. So I'm gonna winterize mine right now.
You're going to get an early start.
Early start. Putting this filter in there now. I got a brand new filter fit right in there. Got to put the bolt back in there and tighten it up. Then I'm ready to go. That for the springtime. And another thing there, I want to check my spark plug.
Okay.
A lot of times the spark plug in here. This the spark plug here. You might want to check to make sure that you get your new spark plug put in there. You can take it out and look at it, see how it look on the end of it.
Okay.
And what you want to do is take the spark plug with you to the store, because they're all different sizes of spark plug you want to put in there. So you want to make sure you take it with you, but they can fit you with the right spark plug. So you want to take the spark plug right here, take the cord off there, then take it with you and put you another one back in there. Then you know you got that taken care of you got all that taken care of.
All right.
And the next thing you want to do is make sure that you change the oil.
Oh, yeah.
Change the oil in there. So now and a lot of times, a lot of more you can turn it upside down and change the oil. But then here, some more you change on the bottom.
Okay.
I'm leaning all the way over
there
and show that. And then you got a plug under there. You take the plug off. Mine change from the top. You take the plug off here and change the oil in that lawnmower. And while you got it upside down like this here, getting ready to change the oil, letting the oil out, you might want to change your blade, and sharpen your blade. I sharpened my blade the other day, and it's real good. You got a screw here. You can take the blade off there and sharpen it while you run around for the winter.
Okay. How often do we need to get our blade sharpened?
Well, I sharpen mine at least twice during the cutting season.
Twice.
Make sure that I have a good blade. But at the end of the year now, I'm going to sharpen again. When I get started again, I'm ready to go. Now, while you got it upside down, you see all that dirt up under there, all that junk under there from the grass. A lot of times we cut our grass when it's wet, and that'll stick beside the lawnmower up under there, and that can rot the frame out. You don't want to do that, so you're going to clean it off real good, then get you a wire brush, and brush it down real good, then get you a water hose and wash it out there. Okay. And sometimes you might want to get you a little oil and just rub it up under here, prevent that from rusting. Because a lot of times
That's a good idea.
A lot of times we cut our grass when it's wet. Yeah. And we shouldn't do that, and that make it stick to the top in there. So while you got the oil change, all the oil drain it out of there. See, you got some oil here. Know how much oil to put in there. They tell you how much oil to put in there, your lawnmower. Put this in there. Then don't wait till the spring to put the oil in there. Now already drain it out of there, because what can happen, you forget. Right. And you go out there and start your lawnmower up, and it will run for a while, and next thing you know, it's like boop, boop, boop.
Just go out.
Go out. So change the
Burn
oil,
it up.
put the oil back in there that you take out of there.
Okay.
Then you know it's ready to go.
Okay.
And so in there you got your mower ready.
So Booker, for your oil, for your spark plug, your air filter, you just go to a regular hardware store or somewhere like that.
Regular hardware store would get that, and sometimes you might go to the place you bought the mower at.
Okay.
Because they'll know more about the mower than
Sure.
because they sold you the mower and tell you that. And on your oil, change your oil, Dr. Cooper, normally you need to change your oil about every 25 hours. You know, you can keep a count how you cutting your grass.
Right.
In 25 hours, you might want to change that oil.
Okay.
You know, like man, I cut mine twice a week. You know, and that's
So you change yours a lot, huh?
That's 8 times a month almost. 8 hours ago, it take me about an hour when I had something to mow my yard.
Okay.
So yeah, you might want to change your oil when you cut 25 hours. You know that. Say, well, I done cut 25 hours. I need to take that oil out of there.
Okay.
Cause your mower lasts a lot longer when you change the oil. There. You know, that's the life of the engine. The oil change in there.
Okay.
But we always know we need to change that oil in there and do that in there.
Good deal.
Then the next thing that you want to do now is get you a gas stabilizer.
Oh, yeah.
You know, and you want to, on that last cutting, when you're ready to cut, you want to run all your gas almost out of there and run you a gas stabilizer and put some gas stabilizer in there by reading the label, how much to put in there, and run that through your mower.
Okay.
And then you want to run it for at least 5 minutes, get that all through your system, and then let it run out of gas.
Okay.
Then you get ready to store it for the winter.
Okay.
If you don't, you do leave some gas in there over the winter month. It might sound strange, but about once a month, take it out of the garage and go out there and start it up.
Wow, okay.
Because you want to keep that gas circulating, keep the gas moving in there. If not, you can have the gas will kind of go, you got ethanol in there. Sometimes it'll kind of expand, then it won't start in the winter in springtime. So you need to start up area at least once a month.
Wow.
And keep that gas begin to circulate through that lawnmower.
Okay.
And stuff in there. So that's a good thing.
I mean, so is it a good thing to store it with gas in it, or do we just need to make sure
it's good to run it out of there.
Just run it out if you
don't
can.
Don't have no gas in there.
Okay.
No,
I need to remember that.
out there.
Okay.
So I do the same thing in there. So
run it out.
Run it out.
Okay.
Then in the springtime, it'd be hard to start in there.
Okay.
So then you might want to run all the way out of there, then store it up then.
Okay.
Then when you're ready to start again in the springtime, you put some new fresh gas in there. All your line is clear and everything is clean. And your mower is ready to go ready to work again.
Okay.
But then, like, the only thing you might want to do during that time is change your air filter because it get real dusty sometime out there. And another thing you might want to change your oil. You do more than 25 hours of cutting.
Right.
Then you keep that in there. Then you sharpen your blades, depending on how you want to keep that blade sharp.
Okay.
So get that mower ready for the winter time and store it up. Put it somewhere in your garage that you don't know. Put it somewhere in your garage, somewhere in a place that you won't be in your way, but that you can need it to start up. You left some gas in there.
Okay. And when you clean it up, you just use water, right?
I just use water and run it off in there. And sometimes I got some place with some bolts on there. I might put a little oil on a little rag or something and rub those bolts in there real good
Okay.
to make sure that keep them from rushing out.
So some WD-40 or something like that.
It'd be real good. It'd be good. You know about that then.
Yeah, okay.
But store that mower in a good safe place, then clean it up for the winter month, and your mower is ready to go in the springtime, and you're ready to start cutting again and stuff in there.
So you're ready to go for 2 cuttings a week,
Two
right?
cuttings a week,
my
Oh
God.
man, it's good. The blade sharp. But that's how you want to ride your lawnmower for the winter there and everything. And store it real good. And most important thing.
All right, well, Booker, we definitely appreciate that information. Now we got our lawnmowers ready for the spring,
You ready
right?
for the spring, yeah.
All right, thank you much.
There are a number of gardening events going on in the next couple of weeks. Here are just a few that might interest you. All right, Mr. D, soil testing. You know what we like to say, why guess? Soil test.
Yeah, don't guess. Soil test.
Don't
That's right.
guess soil
That's right.
test.
It's a very, very simple thing to do that can keep you from getting into a lot of trouble.
Agreed.
And if you have too much of a nutrient, you can't take it out of the soil. If you have too little, you can always add. So I would strongly suggest that you, at least every 3 years, that you soil test any area where you might think you're going to put fertilizer out. And it's a very, very simple process. If you're lucky enough to have a soil probe like Chris Cooper has, and this is a fine soil probe right here. I wish I had a soil probe like this. Mine is about that short, and it doesn't have one of these on it. And you just have to push it into the ground. But if you're lucky enough to have a soil probe that's really good, and a soil sample should consist of a minimum of 10 cores or 10 different sites, and just go in a zigzag pattern across your lawn or across your garden, and sample down to a depth of 6 inches. And if you're not real sure, before you do any of this, you need to go by the extension office and pick you up a soil test kit. And we have one right here. And if you're not real sure, if you can't remember everything I've said, if you look on the back of the box, the soil test box, it tells you, number one, collect portions or cores from, this says 18 to 20 locations. If it's an acre, up to 10 locations in an acre. And to a depth of 6 inches, and you put the samples in a bucket. But before I leave the instrument to take the soil samples, if you're not lucky enough to have a soil probe like Chris Cooper, or like I have the little short one, the short one's better than this. Most folks have a shovel.
Yeah.
And if you have a shovel, you can use a shovel and push it down into the ground 6 or 7 inches, lean it over, and then take a spoon and go down to a depth of 6 inches. And if you need a ruler to measure, have a ruler, go down to a depth of 6 inches and scrape up that cut and put it in a bucket. And do that until you have at least half a cup of soil. You're probably going to need more. And like I said, 10 different locations from similar soil types. If you know that you have a couple of different soil types, if you have a loamy soil in one area, and then you have some clay, some old gumbo clay, like me and you used to farm with, in another area, well, that needs to be a different sample, and so you need to sample that separately and let it have its own sample. But do at least, like I said, at least 10 to 20, and with a spoon, you're going to need 20 or 30 to get a cup of soil or half a cup of soil. But lay that out on a paper plate or a newspaper or something and let it dry, because if it's wet and damp, it is expensive to mail because you're paying by the weight. And also, if it's wet and damp, it can interfere. It may cause this box to break halfway between here and Nashville, where the soil test lab is, and you don't want that to happen. But let it dry out, and then after it dries out, put it back in the bucket, crumble it up real good, stir it up real good, and then put about a half. It'll be about a half cup to fill this box, and you any crop that you are thinking about growing, any if it's vegetables, if it's fruits, or if it's nut, this sheet, soil and media information sheet, also comes with a kit. And on the back, it has all of the different crops listed. And if every code that you put on the information sheet, you will get instructions on how to manage that soil for that crop. That means if you might grow blueberries, blueberries is BB. That's a good code.
Hey, it's a good one,
BB. You put the BB code down, and I guarantee you, your instructions for growing blueberries in the soil is going to be quite different from vegetable garden, which is G. For garden. So you've got a code, and it may be a lawn, Bermuda grass. You may have part of it in a lawn, and so you may have 5 or 6 different codes on there. It doesn't cost you any more. So if you remotely might have a chance of growing a certain something there, then be sure you put that code on here.
Those codes are important. They're most important.
And you will assign each of those a sample number or a name, and you want to make sure you fill that out on the box here. You have a sample number, and then when you send this in, or if you send a check under separate cover, sometimes it might be a good idea to do that. Under your return address, make sure you put your sample number on it. If you have an email, you'll get the results back very quickly. It used to be 6 weeks back in the old days. By the time you sent it, and by the time you got it back in snail mail.
It's come on back now.
But now you get it real quick.
Yeah, Miss Debbie does a great job at the soil lab. She'll definitely take care of our folks down here in Shelby County.
You're right.
That's for sure.
You're right. She does a great job. But it's a very important thing to do. Very little effort, not expensive at all. I think what is the cost of a basic soil test is $7. And that'll give you the P and K levels, and it'll also give you the pH. And
It actually tell you that on that sheet down toward the bottom of it. If you
right.
see there, Mr. D, it'll tell you.
yeah, water, pH,
Right.
PK, calcium, magnesium, lime, and fertilizer recommendations. $7.
$7.
And
You can't beat that.
You can't. And I guarantee you, if you routinely fertilize an area, it will save you money. The $7 will save you money because most people, especially in an urban area, tend to over fertilize.
Yes, they do.
And if you get extremely high levels of phosphorus, phosphorus is a extremely stable element, and it's the middle number in the fertilizer. Triple 13 is 13% nitrogen, phosphorus, and potash. But that middle number is very, very stable. And if you put the same thing out every year, I know of people that put out X amount of pounds of 6-12-12 or triple 13 or triple 15 every year, you will eventually get to the point where you have extremely high levels of phosphorus. When you reach that point, the high levels of phosphorus will interfere with the uptake of other nutrients, and your plants will look like they're starving to death. They won't do well, and there's absolutely not a thing you can do about it, except don't fertilize for years and years and years until the phosphorus levels come down to the point where they're not toxic. They're actually toxic.
Wow.
Same thing with lime and the pH. You know, that could be a problem too if you go the wrong direction with that.
Right, and she's going to definitely give you the line recommendations if you need them.
Right.
You know, she'll tell you how much you need to put down per 1,000 square feet or whatever the case may be. So
if the results confuse you, call Booker or Chris, and they'll help you interpret the results, and they'll break it down in a lawn situation. So many pounds per 1,000 square feet or per 100 square feet. And all that.
All right, Mr. D, we appreciate that. We'd be more than happy to help. All right, here's our Q&A session. All right, Booker, you help us out.
Okay, I'll jump in here now.
All right, here's our first question. Is it too late to seed ryegrass in my Bermuda lawn? I would like to have green grass for the winter. And Mr. D, we just so happen to have our lawn expert with us today.
That's right.
So what do you think about that question right there, Booker?
One of the things I like for my grass to go kind of dormant in myself. I like for it to be brown. I don't like for all that green year round.
You want to be able to let your lawnmower rest.
Let my lawnmower rest and let me rest too.
So you can rest
that twice a week. But we in November now, and the cutoff date for seeding rye is probably around October the 15th. So he might put out, but the cutoff date for UT recommend is October the 15th.
Okay.
So he might try it, and depending how the winter come in, it might come up and it might not. So, but he'd be taking a chance on it this time of the year. But if you want to do that, just go and spend it. It won't cost you much money to try to seed it out there. But the cutoff date is October the 15th for seeding ryegrass out there.
So if you want to try,
you try, depending on how the winter come in and the rainfall and everything, so it might germinate.
Okay. Yeah, folks want that green grass year round now, don't they?
Yeah.
And I tell you what, if they do that, this is even more important because that ryegrass is taking nutrients all winter long.
That's right.
And it can stress the Bermuda grass.
That's
so
right.
it's very, very important that you
do that. Yeah,
I'm glad you mentioned that.
Yeah, you see a lot of folks that on football field, they might oversee something early though with ryegrass. Sometimes they do that.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, it's going to be competition.
Competition there, yeah.
Exactly right.
That's why I like for man to rest, Dr. Chris, in the winter time. Let it rest and we dormant.
So you can rest.
I can rest. Yeah.
I agree with you on that. All right, appreciate it, Booker. Here's our next question. My okra pods were tough and stringy this year. What happened? What do y'all think about that? Look at Mr. D. What do you think about that, Mr. D?
Waited too long.
Yeah, waited too late.
Man. You got to get out there and pick that okra when it grows very fast.
It grows fast.
So you got to pick okra every day.
Every day.
And then when it's 2 or 3 inches long, you pick it. And if you wait a week, throw it away.
He said, throw it away, he said. Booker, we got
I pick okra though, man. like Mike said, you got to do it every day.
Right.
Every day, got to get the okra every day. And the okra be real tall, too. You don't have no long sleeves on, Mike, you don't have trouble.
You better wear long sleeves.
Better wear long sleeves out there. Eat you to death out there. So, do it, and that's what happened to you.
And if you leave the long pods on the plant, if you don't pick off the ones that are too big, the plant is still putting energy into those big overgrown pods. So if you miss it and you have some that are too big, you need to go and pull those off.
Yeah. Wow.
And so the energy will be going to your young tender
one.
pod.
The young smaller ones.
The smaller one, the real small that
ones.
you can go out there and eat them in the green bean.
All right, so here's our next question. Is there such a thing as adding too much lime to the soil? And I think Mr. D did a good job of kind of explaining that a little bit.
You better believe it. And the most common instance of that happening is when I see folks who have fireplaces and they scatter their wood ashes out on the lawn, and wood ashes have a high liming ability. They have a lot of calcium in wood ashes, and if you do that too much, spread all of your wood ashes over the winter over your little bitty garden spot, then it's very, very likely that your pH will be too high. And if your pH is up in, above in the alkaline range, 7, 7.5, 8, plants won't grow.
Right.
And again, it's like phosphorus. It's just as bad as phosphorus. When your pH is that high, you can't take it out. You can't change it easily. I mean, you can add sulfur, but then you get into you could add sulfur to try to lower the pH, and you get into a situation where you lower it too much. And you add, so
you spend money, you don't really need to spend money.
Yeah, be very judicious where you scatter wood lime. Don't put it in the same location all the time. Scatter it over your whole yard, and then check.
Yeah.
Keep an eye on your pH, and you may, if you do that, you might want to check your pH every year, and because yes, that can be a real problem. That was a long answer that could have been real short. The answer is yes.
I'm glad you explained it. Boogie, you want to answer that?
And that's why I tell homeowners they got a lawn service, make sure they have lawn service that check the pH sometime. Because like Mike said a few minutes ago, that the potassium get kind of built up in the soil, and your phosphorus too, and they always adding fertilizer to your lawn without doing a soil test. So you need to have your lawn service to do a soil test just to make sure that you're not too high. And so I do that too, Mike. Like you can't get too high in there.
Right.
Yeah. Very easy.
Tie up the other nutrients. Yeah, pretty
quick,
easy.
Yeah.
No doubt about that. Soil testing is so important.
Well,
we can't stress it enough.
We in the Extension Office have the ability to look at soil samples from across the county.
Yeah.
And back the last time I did that, and I did it when I was in Mobile, it was something that was very common. I would every year look at soil samples and the average levels, soil sample levels.
I've done that.
And most of the cases, phosphorus was high, extremely high.
Yeah.
Not just high, extremely high, on the average from homeowners. And that's, you're walking on thin ice when you're in that situation.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Here's our next question. I would like to plant a cover crop in my vegetable garden for the winter. Any suggestions? And this is from Miss Kathy. What do you think about that one, Booker?
Well, it's about the same thing. Cover crop probably some like legume crop, some like vetch or something. Vetch is a cover crop that you can put down in your vegetable garden. It'll help add nitrogen to the soil. But we're still getting into that cutoff period now because it's almost too late now to do that in there. You need to do that sometime in October. Sometime be a good time to do that, at least around October the 15th before. But yeah, that's something that vetch would be a cover crop you can put down and add nitrogen to your soil. No, you kind of build that soil for nitrogen in there. Okay. And so that's one thing you add to it.
Okay, and that's probably why she wanted to do it. And add to that, Mr. D?
Could be right. If you just want to prevent erosion, don't worry about it. Winter weeds will come up. Natural cover crop.
Natural cover, right? That's right.
Yeah. Mother Nature takes care of cover crops.
And most folks are putting in cover crops because they want to do what?
I would say add nitrogen.
Yeah, nitrogen soil. Yeah, nitrogen soil. Yeah, legume crop to that.
All right, there you have it, Miss Kathy. All right, here's our next viewer email. We have some rose bushes where a lot of the stems were long and they died. I want to cut them off, but my family won't let me. They want me to wait till spring. Nothing will grow out of them and they look so bad. Can I cut the dead rose branches off in the fall? And then she says, love your show, Miss Carol from Memphis. Thank you, Miss Carol. We appreciate that. So, can I cut the dead rose branches off in the fall? What do we think about that, Booker?
Well, anytime you got dead branch on anything, you want to cut it off. You just going to cut it off at the end because it's not doing anything. That's a problem for disease to get in there, insect problem to get in there. So if you got any dead branch on your road, just going to cut those off there. Okay. And just prune it back. But for the heavy prune, I'll wait till the springtime. But you got some long spindler branches on there, and just gonna cut those back too, for the wind won't beat them up. Okay. And then they'll cut them up some.
Now that's easy enough for you to say, but this poor lady, her family won't let her.
They gun, got her, do not cut.
What are they doing to prevent her from doing that?
It's probably a family rose that is left there through the family, way down in there. They didn't want to cut Mama Rose down no more. They wanted to stay there. They wanted to stay there. So, but you can't prune no dead branches off there now.
Yeah,
Yeah.
What do you think about that, Mr. D? Anything
I agree.
to add to that?
Yeah.
A dead limb you can take out anytime.
Anytime, yeah.
Anytime. Miss Carol Booker said that it is okay for you to do that, so let your family know that and it'll be
Yeah.
just fine. All right, Booker, Mr. D, we're out of time.
Oh, man.
Remember, we love to hear from you. Send us a letter or an email with your gardening questions. Send your email to familyplot@wkno.org. The mailing address is Family Plot, 7151 Cherry Farms Road, Cordova, Tennessee, 38016. That's all we have time for today. Thanks for watching. I'm Chris Cooper. Be sure to join us next time for the Family Plot, Gardening in the Mid-South. Be safe.
Production funding for the Family Plot, Gardening in the Mid-South is provided by Good Winds Landscape and Garden Center in Germantown since 1943 and continuing to offer its plants for successful gardening with 7 greenhouses and 3 acres of plants, plus comprehensive landscape services. International Paper Foundation, the WKNO Production Fund, the WKNO Endowment Fund, and by viewers like you. Thank you.